Hello everyone, welcome back, and today we're going to deal with tracking. Now I know I said yesterday that, or the last video, that we're going to do with tracking and paint, but considering both are pretty well involved topics, I've figured it's best to break them up into their own little videos. So today we're going to deal with tracking, and without further ado, let's get right to it. Okay, here we are back in Fusion, our standard default windows, 1,000 frames, whatever the global was set at for its sizing. So let's go ahead and bring in some footage. Okay, the R button here, this is what we need. All right, this says it's 1163 frames. We're definitely not going to be using that many frames. Let's take a gander at it, and the frame size is 2200, which I know we'll have to change. So we're going to go ahead and trim this. And the way you trim in Fusion is this information here. So we're going to trim off the first 150 frames, and only going to go to about frame 500 because this is a tracking tutorial and we don't need the rest. This leaves us with 351 frames starting from frame 1, and the it changed here in our working area as well. So let's go ahead and make our global 351, and now our comp is 351 frames. So let's take a gander at what this looks like. All right, so what we're going to be doing, it's going to give us ourselves more room, is putting a city back here along this coastline. It's a period piece, so we got to put like a Romanesque city back there, very gladiator-like back there. So that's what we're going to do. So first of all, we need to change our size preferences to whatever this is. There we go. Okay, for the shot, it is 2240,960. Okay, so now if I bring in my background or a solid, it is exactly that size. Perfect. So next thing we got to do is bring in our footage that we're going to put back there. So hit the read node again, go up directory, and it's this element right here. So here's the map painting. It's a bit bigger than what it needs to be because of the way the movement is, but yeah, there it is. Now we're not going to see all of it. It's probably going to get chopped off quite a bit. I know we're not seeing the smoke, but yeah, it looks pretty. So let's go ahead and start this track up. Okay, so let's get the tracker. All right, and then as you see, double click on that, you get your familiar search region, track it, and your track region. All right, next thing I want to do, because I like to track in black and white where there's a lot of extreme contrast, levels, French it. So I want to pick up that little piece right there. There we go. That'll pick that up real nice. Now I'm going to break this track because I want to show you something. So we want to track this area. I'm at frame 150 right now, and I'll show you these buttons right here. So these first two buttons, the ones on the outside, is track backwards, and this is track forwards. All right, these two here also track forward and track backwards, but they start at your current time frame. So in this case, it's 150. If I go ahead and hit this or this, it's going to take me all the way to either the end or the beginning of my comp. So I'm going to go ahead and track forward, and it's going to take me all the way back to frame 1 to start tracking, which is not what I want. They do not have a way to track, one, individual frames, and two, that concept of automatically going to the first frame is just stupid. So let's bring in a new tracker. Oops, needs to be the background. All right, so let's go ahead and bring this back over, and we're going to go ahead and back to 150. Track forward, but we're going to use the inner marker this time, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. So you're probably wondering, well, if I need to track backwards to a spot, how in the world do I stop it from doing that? Well, I'm going to show you. So I'm going to go ahead and track this until it goes right off of frame right here. Yeah, that's good enough. And we're at frame 26, it looks like. So you have to activate your working area. So this would be 26, and it will stop right there. Let's go back to frame 1, or frame 150. Track backwards from current position, and it will stop at frame 26. Okay, so let's go ahead and pick up this little guy right there. We'll stop it around frame 16. So we'll change this to 16, and the same principle going if you're tracking forward. So, oops. So I messed that up. So let's go back to frame 26. So I forgot to move it. Now, if I go ahead and move it, it's going to move my track data. So in After Effects, you hit the, I believe, Alt key and move it, and you're able to reselect a region without moving your tracker itself. When Fusion, you just have a pull-down menu right here. And so you pull it off that way. Just go ahead and retrack. See, and now it's fixed. And because I'm just OCD, I'm going to go ahead and track back to the beginning all the way, even though I don't really need to because the matte painting's way off camera, but I'm just a little OCD. So it doesn't matter where I choose as long as it's moving. There we go. So there is our track. So let's go ahead and utilize this track data information. Save this before something bad happens, because something bad always happens. All right, start building our comp. Grab this here. So there's my project or my comp. Let's go to frame 154 because I know for a fact this is where roughly it's supposed to be 1-to-1 to this matte painting when we put it in there. So put that there. So tracks in Fusion kind of work weird compared to what you're used to normally working with. You just normally throw it on a null or put it onto a layer and call it a day. Whereas with tracking nodes, whether it be Fusion or Nuke, they work very peculiar. They need an input, and in this case, this needs 2 inputs. So for Fusion Tracker, it needs to actually have a background. For whatever reason, it's supposed to have a background to do a match move. If you're doing a stabilize, which I will show later, you don't need double inputs. You just need a background. But it does require a background at all times. Okay, so we have to use this like a merge. So if I put this in here, put it on there, we're not seeing the matte painting. It's because we haven't activated it in the operations yet. So we set it to match move, and then we can go through this real quick. Foreground over background, background over foreground, just as this merge order. All right. Apply mode, this is your simple screen, dissolve, multiply, just like any other mode change that you would have in After Effects. Operation is over, subtractive, additive. All these are basic merge operations. Here's where you turn it on and off for your scaling. If you have multiple tracking data points, you can track the rotation, scale. If you've added more points, such as added a second point, that's where you would calculate the rotation and scale. All right, so these are how does it deal with the tracker? Well, if you have multiple trackers, it averages them out. If you have just the one, it doesn't really matter because we just got the one, but you can select a tracker or manually create a tracker. I rarely go into this, but I do go into this once in a while, and this is where you start and end frame it is. This select time thing, this sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. It's really weird. I tried to call a friend for help on it, and as soon as I did, it started working. So I usually just end up doing start or end and then moving it into place with a transform. This is a start and end, which is actually kind of nice. So if you want to like average something together, like you want it to start at 1:1 and end at 1:1, but you wanted to do, stabilize or whatever in between, this is actually a good kind of point. But we're not going to use that. We're just going to go ahead and select start because that's the default. So as you can see here, it's not exactly lining up to anything. Let's change this from screen normal to difference. There we go. Add a tracker to this, or a transform, transform. And let's go ahead and put this in place. So it's roughly right around here. So let's zoom in real quick so you can accurately do it better. So if you hover your mouse over any knob, or not knob, but any field that has numbers on it, don't click into it, but just instantly click and drag, you can move it around and scrub it that way using mouse controls. If you hold down the control key, you can do it, but very slowly, very minute changes. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now. Let's just align that up to black as best I can. And there we go. We are good to go. So let's go ahead and back to the tracker, set that back to normal. And that's how much we're going to be seeing of the matte painting. Go ahead and control save, just in case something bad happens, as it always does. And then let's go ahead and start breaking this thing apart. But first, let's take a look at what it's doing to make sure our track is working. Look at that, our track is working, it's all lining up. So let's go back to 154, that's our hero frame, and start breaking this up. Now, this is the one thing I hate about Fusion. They cannot handle embedded channels very well as Nuke can. I don't even think After Effects can handle embedded channels either without an EXR breakup or EXR Pro or something of that nature. Because this Photoshop document has built-in items such as the background, midground, midground 2, etc., etc. Now After Effects, because it works with Photoshop, can bring all those in automatically as their own layer, whereas other programs such as Nuke and Fusion and Natron and all those, they need some sort of plug-in or some way of dealing with embedded channels. Fusion has to have one read node per embedded channel, which is stupid. In Nuke, you can just get a shuffle node and shuffle it out. It understands that there's multiple things within that file that you can pull out. Fusion doesn't know that because it's actually kind of stupid that way. But from what I understand, they're trying to change that. So we're going to go ahead and start breaking this apart. Copy, paste. How's the background? We're going to go ahead and do the midground. Midground 2. Midground 1. And now the foreground. This is pretty much all we need because we don't see the smoke. We won't see the smoke because it's off camera. And so let's go ahead and bring in another background so we can put it all together like sort of like a mini comp, if you will. All right, but we need the alpha to be clear, and let's just start putting this all together. So that one goes there. That one goes there. I'm going to build it up. And so here it is. Now it's going to be off here in a minute. When you look at it, see, it's no longer in the right spot. Why is that? It's because, as I keep mentioning, Fusion likes its backgrounds to match. So we look at this background, and it is 240, which is the size of our comp, which is what it's supposed to be, just like this. But our matte painting, however, is 2381 by 1130. So we can't go over here and change the preferences because that'll change our comp. So we need to change this background to match our matte painting, which would be 2381 1130. And now it should fit into place, and it does. So that's kind of something you gotta understand about Fusion. And Fusion isn't the only program, it's Nuke too. Nuke and Fusion, any most node-based composite programs, even Shake did this back in the day, so did Chalice. Those programs did the exact same thing. Everything is based on whatever its background is. So consider this like a mini comp, if you will. All right, did I not put that in? Oh, I gotta put that one in. So think of this kind of as a mini comp, and it requires the same background. Hence why I keep iterating why I do this and not just use this as my background, because this can be a different size. So there you have it. So now we have a comp with a mini comp, or in After Effects term, this would be classified as a pre-comp. And that is why we don't have technically a pre-comp in Fusion or any node-based compositing packages. So now if we script through with this, it's doing exactly what it did before. So that's good. In After Effects, we have a region of interest renderer, which basically allows you to select a region and just render that out so you can preview it without loading in the entire thing. Fusion has that too, and that's this button right here. And all you have to do is drag this to where you want it, in this case, this point, and then it will only play in that area. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Okay, not bad. There's some room for improvement. Okay, what we could do here is, one, as this comes in, I can see that matte painting is coming up over this piece here. I can see that there's a problematic piece right here because this is a flat image. We need to roto back on this entire foreground here, back on top of the plate. And we need a little bit of parallaxing with these items back here. So we want this far background stuff here to move up just a little slower than this foreground piece, and maybe grab another mid-ground element to move up even slower or a little bit faster, or in between the speed between the foreground and the very far background. So those are two things that we really need to do, and so let's go ahead and do that. All right, now I'm going to admit I kind of cheated here. I went ahead and pre-rotoed everything, but normally you'd go in and roto it just like I'd show you before, or in my case I used Mocha, which will be a totally separate video. I use Mocha for all my rotoing and even my tracking needs as well, but because this is a tracking tutorial for Fusion, I wanted to show you how to track in Fusion, just in case you get to a facility that does not have Mocha as a software. So let's go ahead and grab my polygons. Come on. And paste. Okay, so as you can see there, those were all the rotos I did. So I covered up this little area. I rotoed all this because these trees are actually part of the matte painting, which is fine. And then, yeah, there you go. So we may even add another track, break away this foreground piece and add it to the track of this foreground area here. We'll see what it looks like and see if we really need to do that. But in the meantime, here's what our matte looks like. And let's go ahead and apply it. Let's go grab a brightness contrast, because it's the way I like to cut things out. Set that to alpha, gain it down, and invert the matte. So if we bring this over here, those are the pieces that needed to be cut out, and we're going to go ahead and put that on top of our piece. So now this little area that was messed up before, is now cleaned up. Okay, so now we're pulling the original plate in, and I'm seeing a lot of difference between this stuff here and this, so it might actually work out just fine having a little bit of parallax there. So let's go ahead and we can play it once again. Save before something bad happens. Yeah, there we go. It looks pretty good. So let's add some fake parallaxing, if you will. So let's go ahead and as it cranes up, where does it stop about? It stops right about here, I believe. Yeah, right around here. So we'll say 140. That sounds good enough to me. So around 140, it cranes up. So let's figure out where our background element is. I'm assuming this. Nope. Let's go with this one. Yeah. So I'll put a transform in there. Look through our comp. And at this point, we want it to be 1-to-1, exactly where it is now. But as it comes through here, see right here, let's go ahead and move it down. Hold the control key down so I can go small increments. And we're going to go ahead and pull that bad boy all the way down, just so we have a lot of parallax. And I want it to ease into this. I don't want it to just instantly stop. So we're going to go ahead and go to our spline editor, set this to show selected. So drag this out a bit more and arc this and make this linear. Spline. Alright, let's see what this looks like. Again, save before something bad happens. That might have been too much. We only need to play it from here to here. 73. There we go. Yep, that is way too much. Alright, so let's just back off on that quite a bit. Set this back to 0.5, which is the default, and just bring it down a little. That's much better. Yep, that's definitely much better. Could maybe go just a little bit more. There we go. Try that. Yeah, that's nice. Let's add a little bit more depth. Let's go ahead and add another transform node. Let's move, let's say, this building here down, which I believe is that one. Okay, let's do that. So let's go ahead and grab this, copy, and paste, and go back here to frame, the animated frame. And we want to go ahead and not move that down as much and get it closer to there we go. So it doesn't come down as much. So it comes down, first one comes down at 44 or 49.19, and this comes down 49.34, so closer to the 0.5 marker. So this is what this looks like. Save this before something bad happens. Okay, sorry about that. Apparently I had After Effects and Photoshop running in the background, and it was just sucking up the memory for my computer here. So let's go ahead and take a look at our shot again. All right, let's take a look and try to play this again. Ah, so much better. Okay. So there we have it. Alright, so we do have a little bit of a wobble, and the looks like the foreground element is not really lining up very well. So let's go ahead and make this foreground a separate piece. Kind of track its own thing. So we can keep that on this layer, and then we'll take this layer as its own piece. So disconnect that. This is its own comp. And let's go ahead and grab the tracker again, turn this off, tracker. Deleted that color corrector. Was it still here? Oh, still here. Okay. So let's change this up a bit. There we go. Alright, so there we go. This will do. 351. 50. We'll track this area right here. This should be fine. Go 50. About when does it come off them? About 29. Pinned. And track backwards. Just to get my OCD out of the way. Cool. Frame 154 is our hero. Disconnect. And up to the foreground. This is our test. Match move, normal, difference, tracker, move you into place. Control. Good enough. Don't need this anymore. And because it's just the one element, we don't need a background for this either. So difference, normal. So now that should track a little bit better. Okay. There we go. There we have it. And that's pretty much tracking in a nutshell with Fusion. So at this point, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and we're going to do some stabilization. Oh yeah, whatever. So you basically come in here and render it as you would like. So take a quick break and come back and do some stabilization. Okay, well, that was interesting. So welcome back. Now that I have finished rendering our tracking shot, let's go ahead and take a look at it. And I think we'll be pretty happy with the way it turned out. So here it is. Not bad. Loading in, almost done, starting to pan over. And it's loaded in. So here we go, real time. Yeah, looks pretty good. Okay, so next thing we're going to look at is stabilization. Now that we know how to track a shot, turning it from match mode to stabilization is literally a click of a button. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So first thing I got is this shot here. And these are only 150 frames long. So we'll change this to 150. There we go. All right. So I got ourselves a little dot here. And it's just bouncing all over the place. So let's go ahead and track this. Frame 1, tracker. Make sure that's what we're looking at. We are. There's our track here. Then our search region, make it fairly big because it's moving all over the place. And go ahead, and because we're at frame 1 and tracking to the end, we can go ahead and click track forward. As you can see, it's jumping pretty well there, and it seems to be locked on pretty good. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the tracker needs a background at all times. So let's go ahead and change this to match move. It's still considered a match move, but we only want the background only. All right, and so therefore we don't have another tracker here, so we can go ahead and turn off position and scaling. So now if we play this, that thing should be locked pretty well, which it is, because you can see the sides are moving in and out, top's moving up and down, trying to compensate for our stabilized footage, and then you drop that into whatever comp you want. Okay, so let's do a 2-point track now, and as you can see, we're going to do stabilizing, rotation, scale, all that stuff. You don't need to do scale, it's not actually moving, but you get the idea. So let's go ahead and add a tracker. First point here, give us a fairly large search window. We're at the end, so let's go ahead and track backwards. Okay, let's add another tracker. Go. Expand that. Now we have to turn off the first tracker because we don't want it to track. We don't want data. So that way we're only tracking one item at a time. It's kind of like turning the eye off on After Effects when you track multiple things. So let's go ahead and track forward. Okay. We'll go ahead and turn this back on so that it calculates. There we go. All right, so we got come back over here to match move. Yes, it's a match move, but we want to stabilize to a background only. And now it should be stabilized. And there you go. It is. So our two dots aren't moving. Try to make sure our position and rotation is selected. Scale to if you want to do that. There was no scaling, so it doesn't even calculate. But there you go. Okay, there you have it. The basic understanding of how to track in Fusion, whether it be 1-point or 2-point, and how to take that data and make it a match move or a stabilization. So the next video will be about paint, so I hope to see you there. Have a good night.